Okay, I'm sorry. Here's a small video. We can watch this video to see more about this story. Facebook did not get suspicious. Facebook got scammed for a majority of that money, and they did not notice anything. Google eventually got suspicious, and they pulled in the FBI to start investigating, and eventually he was caught and had to return a lot of the money and go to
Ethan, I think you didn't share the audios with
Oh
Zoom.
yes, I need to share the audio.
100 M.
Can you all hear the audio?
Yes.
Okay.
Presents. Man stole $122 million from Facebook and Google by sending them random bills, which the companies dutifully paid. Before we move on, subscribe to our channel. Considering the technologically advanced world we live in, with the ease of access to everything, money launderers usually target the consumers that are unaware of it. Hence, it can be implied that where these tech excellence is a blessing to us, they, on the other hand, are providing money launderers a platform to get these things done easily. Where the money launderers are in a constant search of easy fishes in the pond, the large corporations are generally the favorites. Since they have a lot on their plates, getting lucky with them is like a jackpot. Today's story features a similar incident that happened with the two biggest fishes in the technological world, Google and Facebook. The incident dates back to the period between 2013 and 2015, featuring Evaldis Rimasaukas. Evaldis carried out one of the biggest scams that involved forgery and money laundering in the same place. He sent out a lot of official-looking invoices to Google and Facebook that the companies even paid. The invoices were issued from a legitimate hardware manufacturer named as Quanta Computer Inc., accompanied by contracts and letters that the companies, unfortunately, never got verified. The scam was going brilliantly well, and Evaldis was making millions of dollars from the victim companies. He was able to pull it off for 2 consecutive years, and made them on invoices of items that he never provided the companies with. He registered a company in Latvia to fool them under the same name, which was originally a legitimate Taiwanese company, with a bank account in Cyprus and Latvia. It might sound pretty easy to fool the tigers like Google and Facebook, but it actually isn't. What Evaldis did was that he forged the stamps and signatures of the executives of both victim companies, convincing the banks to transfer the funds. Evaldis was able to make Facebook voluntarily pay out $99 million over the duration of the con. It seemed like Facebook never realized, but Google did, informing the authorities of the fraudulent being carried out. Evaldis was pretending to be the Quanta Computer Inc., by which he used to transfer the funds via wire transfer to the accounts in Cyprus and Latvia. What also brought him luck was that he also got a hold of a number of real Quanta contract copies. This way, he was able to steal $122 million over the course of 2 years, $99 million from Facebook and $23 million from Google, before getting caught. Evaldis fraudulently earned himself a fortune, but the scam eventually got into notice with the FBI getting involved. He has been pled guilty and charged for wire fraud and money laundering. As a result of all the wrongs he did, Evaldis is going to face a sentence of up to 30 years on a total of 4 counts, 3 for money laundering and 1 for the wire fraud. The court was reluctant to release the name of the companies considering their reputation, but Facebook and Google admitted publicly as to what happened. Although Evaldis agreed to pay back around $50 million, there was still no record of the remaining $72 million to date. Evaldis admitted how he had set up the system that emailed Facebook and Google employees to collect and disperse the subsequent money. He also admitted on how they planned to swindle over $100 million from most of the U.S. companies if they had not been caught. Manhattan U.S. Attorney Jeffrey S. Berman stated in a press release that Evaldis had opened up multiple accounts at banks from Cyprus, Lithuania, Hungary, Slovakia, and Latvia to receive fraudulent payments. Considering the companies like Facebook and Google, it is easier for them to recover from such losses. But all victims of money laundering are not big corporations. Tax evasion, bribery, corruption, and weak banking systems are the prime reasons which give height to such schemes. Ponzi routes and con jobs, although sound like the easy money, but the consequences of them are far more outrageous than it seems, leaving you to a long sentence in jail and all the regrets in life. That's all for today. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. If you love what we bring out to you, you might want to click on one of the 2 videos.
Okay, so that was the end of the video explaining how he managed to steal over $100 million over a period of 2 years from these 2 big companies. Another thing I'd like to mention in quick passing is that over 5 times the amount of money was stolen. Actually, the news reported this just yesterday from Axie Infinity. Over $600 million was stolen, again, due to social engineering. So this is actually an extremely important topic. So what is social engineering? So some of you might not have an idea, some of you might have. If you do have an idea, or even if you don't, you can type it in the chat or say out loud what you think social engineering is.
I think social engineering relates to social aspects in 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 the real world, to like protecting those possible.
So yeah, Kevin and Pei, you both are kind of right at the well-being, also kind of wrong. I think you both got a part right, pretty well, which is manipulating social, like social overall, like manipulating it to your advantage. I think what Russell said is the most accurate in this cybersecurity context, which is manipulating others into doing certain things. So social engineering is manipulating social interactions to gain access to funds or privileged information or just access in general. So social engineering can be conducted by one individual. For example, one phishing email can be done by a single individual. It could also be done by a team who work together to try to social engineer somebody. For example, unsolicited friend requests on social media. Social engineering could be done face-to-face or online, though it's usually online. For example, it could be done by like customer support call, like, hello, we are Microsoft customer support. We have noticed that your computer is very out of date and we need you to install a software update so your computer is safe. I think many of your parents have probably encountered this type of social engineering. Another example is supplier's calling. So as said in the story before, he was essentially a supplier calling for money by sending the fake invoices, and he got actually over $100 million from that. This is a great example of social engineering. More face-to-face versions could be sorry, third-party repair services coming in, such as cables, elevators, and fire inspections. So before we proceed, I want to ask a few questions again. So the first question I want to ask is, do you all know somebody or have you been a victim of social engineering? You can say this out loud or type in the chat. Okay, it looks like a few people are saying no and a few people are saying yes. So if you did say yes to this question, if you want to say, who did you know that got scammed by social engineering? Oh, okay. Fake Discord nitro scams. Okay, okay. That seems to be a running joke in the Discord community. So I also want to ask a second question. So why would you think social engineering is its own part of cybersecurity? What distinguishes it from other parts of cybersecurity? Again, you can type it in the chat or answer out loud. Okay, it doesn't look like anybody has any response to this right now. So basically what separates social engineering and other parts of cybersecurity are generally its focus. Social engineering focuses on the human parts of cybersecurity. For example, if you remember what the story just was about Google and Facebook, like that guy, he didn't hack into any servers or banks. He didn't wire himself money after finding out a secret password through some great hacking tool or software vulnerability. He targeted the humans, which were the normal employees of Google and Facebook, and he got a lot of money out of it. Excuse me. So this is actually really important because in cybersecurity, the human is generally the weakest part of the link. If like a lot of times when people are hacked or their systems are compromised, it is generally human's fault. So social engineering is a very important thing to learn. Okay, so now I want to talk about phishing. So who here knows what phishing is and what is phishing? You can type in the chat or answer. Okay, so I'm seeing a few responses like asking or scamming for personal info and an email that uses social engineering. So these answers aren't, they don't have anything wrong with them, but I would not exactly say that they are correct either. So phishing would be an email that, well, actually, yes, what Russell said, an email that employs social engineering in order to, as said before, gain access, funds, or privileged information. So this is one example of engineering, I mean, phishing, where you can see there's an issue with your American Express account, and it's from American Express. And it says, review your information. And due to recent activities on your account, we placed a temporary suspension until you verify your account. You need to review your information, blah, blah, blah. To continue using the service, we need you to update your account ownership. So what do you guys think will happen if I receive this email, I use American Express, and I click this big blue button right here? What do you think is going to happen? Okay, yes. Uh, well, if I click this big blue button, it is technically a scam. And you, yes, could compromise your personal information. But if you click this blue button, you probably aren't dead yet. What's probably going to happen after you click this button is that it's going to ask you to input your information. And once you input your information and then like click the verify button or whatever, it's going to send it to some malicious person who now has full access to your American Express account. So this is essentially what phishing is. So, okay. Now here we have spear phishing. So what do you all think spear phishing is? You can put it in the chat or say it out loud. Okay, yes. Spear phishing is phishing but targeted. Spear phishing is not forcing the victim to give money. That is called a robbery. Yes, it is personalizing it to the victim. So yeah, as Lucas said, spear phishing is a more targeted form of phishing, which an attacker uses targeted attacks against specific individuals. And basically, before they attack, they do a bunch of research in order to make the attack look very convincing to them. So let's watch a video about spear phishing.
If you're an Oregon homeowner, 2022 is your last chance to go solar. In December of 20...
Phishing, spear phishing, and whaling are types of cyber attacks that are based on social engineering methods. The hacker tricks users into believing that they represent a reputable organization, government officials, senior, or a person that they knew. Then they steal confidential information using the fake website or installing spyware on their system. In this video, you will know what spear phishing is and its difference from phishing and whaling. We have also included tips that you can use to stay away from such attacks. Before we start this detailed guide, press the like button and subscribe to our channel. Spear phishing is a personalized phishing attack that targets a specific person, organization, or business. Cybercriminals intend to steal secret information about the organization by getting their login information or installing malware. How does spear phishing work? Cybercriminals will often start by identifying specific people in the company to target. These people are typically those who are in charge of company information or infrastructure. Then the second step is to collect information about that person. The hacker gains information about the individual, like their friends, family, social media activity, and colleagues. The intention behind this step is to create a profile of the target so that they can understand the behavior of the person. Then, in the third step, the hacker uses the collected information to craft the attack. They create an email or a digital communication pretending to be their senior person or colleague. The message in the email could be similar to ones they usually receive, like the password expiry notification or reports. The email intends to create a sense of urgency, curiosity, or fear among the user so that he clicks on the link or downloads the attachment. Then, in the final step, the hacker doesn't need to do anything. The trap has been placed, and it is up to the user if he falls for it or not. If the user believes in the message and clicks on the link, they are redirected to a fake website where entered information directly reaches to the hacker. Or if he downloads and opens the attachment, they infect their computer with malware, specifically spyware or keyloggers. The hacker may sell the collected information to the rivals of the company or any other organization. The difference between phishing and whaling. The only difference between phishing, spear phishing, and whaling is the target. The phishing targets a broader audience. In this attack, the emails are generic, which can easily trap any users. At the same time, the spear phishing targets a specific person or an organization. Whaling is targeting high-profile individuals like corporate executives, politicians, and celebrities. Targeting high-profile individuals is not easy. To make a successful attack, hackers research a lot and then create an ingenious plan. How?
Okay, so that is the part that I think explains spear phishing very well. So after this, I would also like to ask you a question. You can put this in the chat or say it out loud. Why do you think some attackers would prefer to use spear phishing instead of normal phishing?
Because it's more effective.
Can you say that again?
Because it's more effective, and will probably you know, since it's more effective, they'll have a higher chance of getting money from it.
Well, yes, it is more effective in the sense that any one particular target will be more likely to fall for your scam than if you do normal phishing. But in normal phishing, you are able to target huge amounts more people than spear phishing. So do you think there is any other reasons that people would choose spear phishing instead of normal phishing?
It can be less suspicious. Like if you target a lot of people, people might start to realize. But if you only target one person, then like only one person knows about it. And like they can't talk to anyone, or like they don't have anyone who has the same problem or whatever.
I guess that's a very interesting point to bring up. I cannot say that you're wrong, but I would also like to say that if you try to attack only one person, then if that one person happens to like screw you up accidentally or on purpose, your whole attack kind of failed. I personally would say that people do spear phishing instead of normal phishing, either because the targets are either high value or easy targets. For example, I would choose to do spear phishing instead of normal phishing on excuse me, some really rich person who has a lot of money to give. Because if I did that, then I would be able to get a lot more money than normal phishing can. Yes, you could make more money. Or I could pick a really easy target. For example, if I pick some 100-year-old person and pretended to be Nigerian prince, and then employed some of their personal lives in the email, they would have a high chance of being fooled and would actually send me a good amount of money. So that, in my opinion, is why people would pick spear phishing or normal phishing. Okay. So social engineers have to use tactics to try to get people to do what they want to do. So the first tactic they might use is authority. So in this tactic, they will insert themselves in a position of power. For example, this is the FBI, or don't you know who I am? These are right on the slides right here. By doing that, they're inserting themselves in a position of power. And by inserting themselves in a position of power, they're trying to get you to psychologically cooperate with them by putting themselves in a position of power. So over here, we have this email right here. You can take a little read. And after you read it for a bit, I want you to ask yourself, what would you do if I receive an email like this? No, pay, this link is not real. So take a look over this email and ask yourself, what would I do if I received an email similar to this? And you can put it in the chat or say it out loud. Yes. You might not. Okay, yeah. You all bring up fair points. You don't have a company, so you would probably do nothing. I would probably not respond because this is probably a scam. But in the real world, who knows? For example, you are all students. If you were business owners or something, and somebody was posing as the Better Business Bureau, saying that you violated the Fair Labor Standards Act, that would be pretty scary. So let's say you are a student and you have received an email that was like, oh, your permanent record is permanently tainted. You would, I mean, probably most of you would not respond. But the point is that this attacker, Robert J. Olson, is posing as the Better Business Bureau. And his goal by posing as the Better Business Bureau is to try to kind of scare you into complying with him because the Better Business Bureau has a lot of power in what you do as a business. The Yeah, this is probably a bot, but I don't know what that has to do with it. So right now, what I want you to do is just maybe take a minute and think of how you can use this tactic to try to social engineer like your friends, your classmates, your teachers, your parents. Please do not try to social engineer them. Actually, it's against the law. But just take a minute and think of how you can use authority to try to social engineer some of the people you might know in your life. Has anybody thought of anything yet?
Maybe you could pose as like the law enforcement, or like if they have a job, you could pose as their manager or someone higher up than they are.
Yes, that is very good. That is a good use of authority. Like you could pose as a excuse me, law enforcement or their manager if they have a job. Because if you do that, like generally if you go to school and you are called into the principal office, what is your first reaction? Like you're scared. What did I do? So if you receive an email from somebody who has lots of authority, then you'll be scared and your ability to think will be diminished. And that is exactly what these social engineers are trying to do. They use this authority tactic. So a second tactic they use is intimidation. So intimidation is generally trying to get you to think that if you don't do what they want you to do, really bad things are going to happen when it's probably the opposite. So over here, we have an email from the IRS. So pretend you're an adult, put on your adult hat, and see what you would do if you received an email from the IRS that was like this. You can put what you would do in the chat or say it out loud. Okay, Russell says that he would wait for this to come in the mail. IRS account. Personally, I have no idea what an IRS account is because I don't pay taxes, but it's probably something only for you. Uh, yes, pay. The IRS is not capitalized, so you can probably tell this is a scam. But Russell says that he's gonna wait. I mean, as far as I know, that could either be a really good idea or a really bad idea. But the point is here that like, excuse me, that these social engineers are trying to intimidate you into doing what you want. Yes, you could look up what the IRS actual email is. It's probably not Kaspersky.com. But they're trying to intimidate you into clicking this blue link right there and putting in your information. Because usually when you verify your information, you're gonna put in your current information, which means they're gonna have access to your account. And yes, it is weird about the generic greeting, but we'll talk about that stuff later. So now I want you to do the same thing as authority. Think about how you might use intimidation to socially engineer some of the people in your life. And once you have an idea of what to do, you can say it out loud or put it in the chat or not use it against the people you're intending to social engineer.
I mean, I think you could kind of do the same thing as authority, because like you could say that you would get like fired or like get arrested if you uh don't do what they say.
Uh, yes, I think that's a very good idea of like how to use intimidation. I personally think that intimidation and authority are very intertwined because if you use intimidation and you have no authority at all, you're just going to be ignored. Like if you use intimidation and you say, "Oh, I will fire you if you do not comply with what I say," but your authority is zero, then the person you're trying to social engineer will think that you cannot act upon your threat and your attempt will be extremely ineffective. I noticed that a lot of people are typing ways to try to avoid phishing in the chat. We will also talk about these techniques later, but intimidation is posing a threat and then saying that if you do not comply, this is going to happen. Intimidation, like authority, is trying to get your target to be scared of what's going to happen so their brain does not work properly.
It's also kind of suspicious that they said at the very bottom, if you receive this in spam or junk mail, like you'd think if they're an actual government agency, they wouldn't have to say that.
I think that's a good point, but not everybody who's going to try to social engineer you is going to pose as a government agency. So I think this is
Yeah.
very specific. Okay, so a third tactic used by social engineers is consensus or social proof. When they use this tactic, they're trying to make whatever they're doing seem pretty routine. Like, oh, we normally do this. Like, oh, this is just like eating food or going to sleep or having a little depressive episode before you go to bed. Like it happens every day or every week or something. And by doing that, they're trying to let your guard down. It's like, oh, okay, like please have whatever, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, I do this every day. So I'm just going to do it again. without even thinking about what I'm doing. So using this, they're trying to get you to, again, stop thinking and start doing. So for this, we can see this Visa and MasterCard telephone credit card scam. So I just want to ask, have any of your parents like gone in or been attempted to scam by this Visa and MasterCard scam? Okay, so a lot of people are saying no. I would probably bet yes, or your parents got lucky. So this scam was actually pretty routine. There is a link to an article. I will post that article into the chat momentarily. Yeah, maybe they just didn't tell you. That I think that is a completely valid possibility. Uh yeah, I think I just put the article into the chat. So if anybody wants to look at it, you can go ahead and look at it. If anybody wants to look at it right now, you can just tell me, so maybe we can give you a few minutes to look at it by yourself. But right now, I want you to think about how you could use this tactic to social engineer the people in your lives. If you get an idea, you can put it in the chat or say it out loud. Okay, I think we can move on now. I think we've been moving a little slow. But for this one, okay, so for this one, I could think of something like, oh, we need to inspect this, like we're doing a routine inspection of your devices or something. And then like they would be like, okay, if they weren't, excuse me, thinking at all. And then you would be able to take their stuff for it. So a fourth tactic used by social engineers is scarcity and urgency. This one is pretty common. When they use this tactic, they are going to put a limit on time and a limit on opportunity. When they do this, they're trying to make you freak out and get into your FOMO, fear of missing out. And by doing that, they're trying to make you essentially stop thinking and start acting like many of the others. Keywords here to notice are words such as urgent, limited, now free, etc. Anything that makes an offer look better. So let's say like you bought a new computer, you need antivirus software, and then this McAfee email pops up in your inbox. That's like, oh, limited time offer, 80% off only for today for 2 years. So what will you think about this email? And how would you react to it? You can put it in the chat or say it out loud.
There is also a possibility that their unsubscribe button is also a scam.
That's pretty interesting. Okay, so I am not seeing really much responses for this. Pei says that he almost got McAfee scam once. That means you didn't get McAfee scam. Good job, good job. But I think what you would want to notice here is that we have lots of keywords in this email that are mentioned. Like we have a limited time offer. We have a 80% off only today. That's basically free. You can say that's basically free. So we've had like limited and free. And this is likely something that's they're trying to social engineer you and McAfee scam. Now I want you to take some time to think about how you can use this scarcity and urgency tactic against like people in your life. And once you get an idea, you can put it in the chat or say it out loud. 80% discount. Yeah, I would say that's in the lane of too good to be true. Like it's not free, so it's definitely not true. It's not free, but it's not like 20% or anything. So you can try to think of ways to use this tactic to social engineer people in your life. And once you get an idea, you can say it out loud or put it in the chat.
You could like in the example, you could say something's about to expire. Like even like your Netflix account is about to expire. Make sure you resubscribe.
I think that that's probably, yeah, that's a way to use this tactic because like you're like using the urgency, like, oh, I am no longer going to be able to service if I do not spend some money. So I will spend some money and continue my use of this service. So I think that's like using this tactic in a pretty decent way. So again, what they're trying to get to do with this tactic is limit your time and opportunity. So you panic more and you act more and you think less. Okay, so here we have an additional tactic, which is familiarity and liking. So social engineers are going to use this tactic. They're going to say, someone you know put me in touch with you, like John put me in touch with you, or, oh, I'm this person's friend. They mentioned you to me and blah, blah, blah. So what they're trying to do with this tactic is like the consensus one is lower your guard. So if you have a mutual acquaintance with somebody, then you're probably more likely to trust them than if they're just a completely random person you met on the street. So here we can see a text message. It's in Chinese, but if you don't know how to read Chinese, it says, I'm Yara. I am Angie's friend. She introduced you to me. So how would you guys respond to this text how would you guys respond to this text if you received it? Okay, Kevin would ignore it. Meilon will not respond. Okay, so those are all pretty reasonable responses to this. If you take a closer look at the phone number, it's actually a Rochester, New York phone number. Assuming I know Yara, I would ask. Okay.
They haven't actually asked you to do anything yet. They just said I am, and then I'm Yara, and then I know this person. But I haven't asked you to like click a link or anything.
Yeah, they haven't asked you to do anything yet. Keyword is yet. If you do respond to this text, there is actually a group of people working behind this. As I said before, it can be done in a group as well as individually. So we've got a group of people behind this, big brain people. They have a script to anything you respond. Maybe you respond wrong number, they know what to say. You respond with a meme, they know what to say. So they're going to try to socially engineer you to generally invest into something. And the thing they want you to invest in is generally like digital coins, cryptocurrency. So somebody in the Chinese American community are actually lost just $40,000 shy of 1 million. So $960,000 to a scam just like this, according to a really reliable source. Okay, so here we have another one. It's from LinkedIn. So how would you respond to this? Okay, Pei says click view profile. I think that's a pretty reasonable thing to do. Oh yeah, I forgot to say that these were both received by my dad. So Pei says, hopefully it's not a scam. I think there are many ways to determine and say that this is a social engineering scam. The main way is that if you look at the profile picture here, it looks very un-LinkedIn like. It's like a something you would put in your fashion blog, not in a LinkedIn. So what this person's trying to do over here is to put a put a picture that fits into the beauty standard, which is probably going to increase your liking, and then maybe say, okay, I might accept this because why not? And then they will try to social engineer you from there. So I would also want to ask you how you would use this tactic against somebody else in your life. If you get an idea, you can say it out loud in the chat.
I think there's some like cases where like people like try to attack like grandparents and say like the nephew is like wanting money or something.
Okay, yes, that's a really, really good use of this tactic. Because first of all, like it's a relative, so they're more inclined to like send money out of generosity. And second of all, you're attacking grandparents who are like the least cybersecurity people out there. I do think that this tactic has been in use for hundreds of years, namely when people send fake love notes to each other in middle school. Okay. So right now we have impersonation. So impersonation, I think this one's pretty obvious to everybody. You're going to impersonate somebody and pretend to be somebody. So for this tactic, it's self-explanatory. All the other tactics probably rely on this. You're going to pretend to be somebody and then employ an array of other tactics to try to social engineer somebody. There is an article link as to how hackers infiltrated a company for $300,000 months before the actual hack. I will send the article link in the chat in case if any of you want it. Sorry. It will be in the chat momentarily. Okay, so I have put the article link in the chat. So I think we probably want to move a bit faster now. So, okay. So here are some other techniques excuse me, of social engineering. So we have, okay, whaling. So whaling was explained in the video about spearfishing. Is basically a type of fishing directly against high profile targets like Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump or Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk. We have a blagging. So blagging is an attack where somebody makes up a fake pity story to get people to help them. Like, we are orphans. Our parents just died in a car crash. Please send any money. Any money helps. And yeah, that's what they're trying to do, to social engineer you. We have smishing. This is easy to explain. It's phishing, but with a text message, not an email. We have baiting. Baiting is that an attacker uses a false promise to lure a victim in and then like get their attack done. Like, for example, they can leave a hard drive in a contiguous location. SMS phishing. I think those are probably different because smishing is also called phishing. Baiting could be leaving a hard drive in a contiguous location. Some curious person picks up, they plug it into a computer, and oh, they have installed malware. In fact, something like this happened to Iran. Malware called Stuxnet was put in a hard drive, and some Iranian scientists picked it up and plugged it in, and then their nuclear factory actually broke, and Iran got really mad at it. And here we have pretexting. So pretexting is kind of a lot of what you've seen before. Like, we need to verify your credentials. Please enter them here. That's what pretexting is. They're manipulating somebody to give up information. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Defending yourself against social engineering. So now that we have talked about how social engineering work and what they're trying to do and types of it, we have to talk about how are we going to defend against these. So the first thing you can do is educate yourself, educate your family. What this basically means is that gain a relatively, at least basic understanding of how it works, as to not fall into really bad scams that can end up losing you or your family out of money. Another thing you can do is maintain up-to-date software. So this means that you download secure updates, you have the latest version of all your software. If you have software version 3, but software version 4 is out and it's secure, you probably want software version 4. If you have done the Cyber Patreon in the past, you know that this is a really good thing to do. The third one is you want to think before you act. If you receive a link, an attachment, something to install from somebody, you want to think before you're acting, because in social engineering, all of these tactics that I have talked about in this presentation, they are trying to get you to act before thinking. So if you think before acting, you're probably safe. Another one is researching sources. So this one, if you like get sent something by customer support, blah, 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 install this, you can call back actual customer support. Maybe they'll say, oh yeah, we called you and we want you to install this. But maybe they'll say like, oh, dang, you were about to get scammed. You did a really good thing and preventing yourself from getting scammed. And another thing to do is be alert on your social media. A lot of these social engineering is on social media. So if you're alert on social media, you're going to be more protected against social engineering. Okay, so we have some more techniques to try to ignore social engineering. Well, not ignore, defend. These are going to be verifying information with people that you know. This can apply to familiarity. So if you previously saw that test about Yara and Angie, if you do have a friend named Angie, you can go ask her, hello, this person called Yara texted me and said that you were her friend. Do you actually know anybody called Yara? Likely your friend is going to say, no, I have no idea. I know nobody who has that name. And you have defended yourself against social media. Avoiding things that are too good to be true. Probably most of you already know this, but like if you get a really insane offer, like the 80% discount on the McAfee we described earlier, like that only lasted for today. It is really good and probably is not true. So if you avoid that, you defended yourself against social media. So the third one is not inputting sensitive information. So for this one, you generally, if you find a site that wants you to input sensitive information, you might not want to input it there until you can absolutely trust it, especially with a more sensitive information. So right now I want to ask you all a question. What do you consider sensitive information? And of the sensitive information that you consider is sensitive, what do you consider to be more sensitive? And what would you consider to be less sensitive? Once you think you have kind of an answer, you can put it in the chat or say it out loud.
There could be stuff like things that identify you, like your name, especially your last name and your first name.
Okay, I see that I'm getting some pretty good answers. Like, as Henry said, we have your name, your passwords, your identification. And like, basically a lot of things that could differentiate you from other things. Of course, if you wear one pink shoe and one blue shoe, that's probably not a very sensitive information. But what a lot of people said is correct. Now, like we have credit card numbers, social security numbers. These are probably the most sensitive of your sensitive information. After that, we have like a passwords to like your bank account and that kind of stuff. Passwords to like your game account and other stuff are probably not that important. Your life isn't over if like your gaming password got exposed, unless if you're a professional gamer. And things like your name and address and stuff, these can be semi-public or very public, especially if you got into the news like once or something. So right now I want to talk about avoiding phishing in particular. So many of you have already identified like how to avoid phishing before. So I'm just gonna like click through these. So you said before, poor English skills. So in the IRS one, you noted that the IRS was actually undercapitalized, not capitalized. Yes, Peggy, we will get to that in a bit. So for that, like companies generally are going to make sure that their English is actually correct. If you find a poorly written one, it's probably phishing. We also have the suspicious sender's address. So if the sender's address doesn't look really right to you, so in this example, you have nytimes at e.newyorktime.com. So this is pretty obviously, well, not that obviously, a fake address because it should be newyorktimes.com. If you receive an email from an address like this, especially asking you to input your credentials, it's probably a fake. And then we have the fake links. They're shortened or wrong. So Pay said it said Arnica. Yes, it is supposed to say Arnica because this is going to be a fake link that people are going to use. Well, not are going to use, might use to try to steal your bank account. And then we have generic greetings. As said before, somebody pointed out that it was suspicious how they said dear customer or something like that. If there is a generic greeting, then like it's not a completely show, but it's definitely something that should raise your attention. Because usually if a big corporation is going to ask you to input your credentials, they're going to put in your actual name or just part of your name. Right now, I think we are going to do a quiz. Let me open up the quiz for a second. Okay, so the quiz code should be on the screen. I will give you some time to enter it. It does not look like we are on track to have other people join. If you do want to join, but you haven't already, please say something because I will be starting it in probably around 10 seconds. Okay, I do think we have some stragglers. Okay, does anybody else want to join but hasn't yet? Okay, I think I have to start now due to time concerns. I don't think you have to do the last question for this quiz, by the way. So you can just leave that one blank. Okay, I do believe that unfortunately we have to stop here due to time concerns. We are almost out of time. But a lot of you did relatively well on the quiz. This quiz got 80% accuracy, so that's good. We will now continue with an exercise. So right now for this exercise, I want you to find as many things as possible in the image that would indicate that this is an attempt to fish somebody. The image is right here. So I will give you all until 8:46 to find as many things as you can that would indicate that this would be a social engineer. If you do find something, you can put it in the chat or say it out loud. Okay, you're all doing very good. Yes, this email domain is incorrect and there's a very generic greeting. I don't believe this link is incorrect because it does look correct. Barring capitalization. Also, yes, the SunTrust is capitalized very inconsistently. Okay, so it looks like you guys were basically doing very well out of this. Like you were able to find this SunTrust and then like this. Which is yes. So yeah, there is a lot of English problems with this. If you wanted to be a bit more picky, you would notice this capitalization error right here. But yeah, you guys did very good. Good job at this. Okay, so right now we will be looking at some case studies to just see some real examples of social engineering in play. So this first case study, we will be looking at a team of criminals pretending to be a German CEO and tricking a child company CEO to wire $250,000 to a fake account. So here I have a video. We should watch this video first. Oh yeah, I do not. I believe that I turned off audio share. My bad.
Very important. Artificial intelligence is a very important factor for a better future. It helps us in so many different ways and makes our work a lot easier. But some types of work can have bad intentions too. So people can use AI for various types of malicious activities. And that's what happened in March this year. Some scammers used AI to generate a fake voice of the CEO of a German-based company. They tricked the CEO of a UK-based energy firm into believing that he was speaking to its parent company's CEO and asked him to send a payment of $243,000 to a Hungarian-based supplier in an hour and promised to make a refund soon. Due to the same voice and accent as the German CEO, he sent the payment instantly without any doubts. This money was first transferred to Hungary, and then it was transferred to Mexico and other places. Authorities are still investigating the issue, but there's no signs about who was involved in this malicious activity. There's also a new AI technology called Deep Fake, where you can change the face of any character in a video. If it's done well, then it's hard for you to know if the video is real or fake. After combining techniques like deepfake and voice cloning, people can scam others in a lot.
Okay, I do believe that that is the end of the relevant part of the video. So after seeing this, oh yeah, there's also a news article. I will put that in the chat as well. Wait a minute. Okay, so right now I would like to point something out. This attack was actually made by an AI to pretend and impersonate everything. So this is actually very interesting, you could say, until you get scammed. That AI has this power to mimic the voice that accurately. Right now, I want to ask you a question. What tactics do you think these scammers use to trick the other CEO to send the money? If you have an idea, you can put it in the chat or say it out loud.
Impersonation.
Yes, these attackers did use a lot of impersonation in this attack in order to pull it off.
Also authority and urgency.
Yes, I would say that is completely right. These attackers did it very well. They used authority as the parent company CEO in order to get people, in order to get the other guy to send the money. And they also use urgency because I think if you read the news article, I don't, probably most of you haven't yet, but if you do read it, it does say that they requested the money very urgently. So, and combined with the fact that they pretended to be the voice of the German CEO very well, they were able to get this person to send the money. I would also ask you guys, if you are in the position of the British CEO, what would you do in this situation if you got a call like that? If you have an idea of what you do, you can put it in the chat or say that loud.
I would maybe check where the call came from, and like if it's not from wherever the German CEO works, it might be suspicious.
Okay, that doesn't seem like a bad idea. You want to verify the identity of the caller. Okay, so personally, what I would do as the British CEO, I am saying this with complete hindsight in this situation. This does not mean that I will perfectly act if I actually was in that situation in real time. I think that the most effective thing to do would be to call the German CEO and then ask him if he wanted the money urgently. And then after that, I would be able to defend against this attack. Unfortunately, it looks like we are running out of time. I had more case studies prepared, but it doesn't look like we'll have time to do them. Before this session ends, I would like to send a survey form in the chat that I would like you to fill out. So let me send a survey form. Wait a minute. Yes, I believe the survey form is now sent in the chat. And I now leave the rest of the session to questions. The rest of the session is open to questions. If you have a question, you can type it in the chat or say it out loud.
Like I have one question where like, how do they find your contacts to be able to like send you emails or send you text messages or call you?
For email and text messages, I would likely say that they just they, they don't they probably don't specifically target people. They probably enter a messy array of numbers and just see what comes up after typing it in. Because for text messages, it's just numbers. I have not done a lot of research on this topic. As for emails, I actually do not know this. I actually, off the top of my head, cannot say anything about this because there are definitely a lot of places to get random people's emails. For example, like you could look at leaked records, you could like buy leaked credentials and stuff, and you could definitely get a lot of emails there. On the other hand, you can just look at databases or something. Like there are lots of ways to get these things. So I'm not completely sure where most of these people get it from.
And also like, do you know if like any like email services or social platforms are placing security measures against these types of attacks? Like I know like iMessages might mark a message as spam, and then and Gmail too. But
I do think Gmail has this kind of service. Unfortunately, I think it's pretty trash and extremely counterproductive. For example, almost nothing gets marked in the spam folder, even if you clearly want it to be there. And if something actually important happens, there's a 50% chance of landing in the spam folder. I do think that the phishing filter for Gmail last time I checked was extremely ineffective. I sent a friendly email to a friend and it got marked as phishing. So I'm not quite sure I would trust the Gmail services. Okay, I am afraid that we are basically out of time. I would appreciate it if you would fill out the survey I sent in the chat. Hopefully you can still find it. We will have 6 more sessions like this. They will be in the next 3 weeks, each on Tuesday and Thursday from 7:30 to 9 p.m. I would like to thank you all for being here and being a good audience and being cooperative. It was a nice time doing this. So I do think that we are in a good position to end the meeting out. Hopefully, we will be able to see you in future sessions. If nobody has anything to comment, then I will be ending the meeting shortly.
all right, thank you, Ethan.
Okay. Thank you all for coming again. I will stop the recording now and then end the meeting.
Thanks.